Hey, Tony here with Salt Strong, and in this video we're going to be talking about rigging up artificial shrimp based on how deep you're fishing. Now I like to keep this pretty simple and pretty straightforward, so what I like to do is either have a weedless type of hook, such as a 3/0 owner twist lock hook, or a jig head. Those are pretty much the only two types of hooks I'm going to have with me. And I'll have different size jig heads as far as the weight goes, anything from 1/8 of an ounce up to about a 1/2 ounce. And that is going to vary based on how strong the current is and or how deep the water is that you're fishing. Typically, if I'm fishing less than 4 feet of water, I will stick to a weedless setup. And now if you don't have a weedless hook, most shrimp come pre-rigged. Some shrimp will have a pre-rigged hook on them, and you can use it that way, such as this Chase Baits Flick Prawn. This is an artificial shrimp, and you can actually rig it weedless. It has a weedless setup on there already. And these weedless hooks are typically going to be a little bit lighter, which makes them more ideal in that shallow range, anywhere from less than a foot and up to about 4 feet deep. Also, if you're fishing in shallow water but the current is pretty strong, you can actually switch out some of these hooks that are on these pre-rigged shrimp. As you can see, I'll go ahead and take this one off here. This is basically just a weedless swim bait hook or wide gap swim bait hook. As you can see there, it's just a wide gap hook with a weight on the shank. So you can go and purchase some of these hooks either in a 2/0, 3/0, or even a 4/0 size. It will highly depend on the size of the shrimp that you're using, but you want to match up that hook to whatever the original hook was so that it fits properly. And these pre-rigged shrimp will usually have grooves already cut out in them, so you can easily just pop that hook right back into place like so, and you're good to go. So again, if you are fishing shallow and you're fishing in pretty swift current, you're going to want to go a little bit heavier. But again, I do like to go with that weedless setup because when you're fishing in the shallows, you're typically going to encounter seagrass, tree limbs, and debris in the water. So that's why I like to go with that weedless setup in shallow water. Now going back to deeper water situations, anything more than about 4 feet, again I like to go with the jig heads. And the size of the jig head or the weight of the jig head is highly going to depend on how strong the current is and how deeper it is. So if I'm fishing, let's say 4 feet and it's a pretty weak current, I'll go with about a 1/8 to a 1/4 ounce jig head. If the current is any stronger, I'll bump up to about a 1/2 ounce. And it's really going to be dependent on the area that you're fishing. So you have to experiment with that. Make sure you have a few jig heads of different weights available to use. That way you can find the one that works best for the situation. But jig heads are going to get your bait down to the bottom more effectively because of that weight being up front on the lure. It's going to dive straight down as opposed to having a weight on the shank of a hook here, which is going to have that bait fall more slowly as it just sort of falls straight down instead of straight down head first, which is more hydrodynamic, so that bait goes down faster with that jig head at the front of the lure. Now, something important I want to mention with jig heads, most of these pre-rigged shrimp are not going to work well with jig heads because they do have those slots that are pre-made into the baits, and it will be tough to rig those up. So if I'm fishing deeper, I definitely like to go with some of these shrimp that are not pre-rigged, such as a gulp shrimp or a Z-Man scented shrimps. Also, Z-Man makes the easy shrimps, which are these here that come pre-rigged, or you can actually purchase them in a package where they're not actually rigged up. And these can be a little bit better to put on a jig head because they don't really have too much of a slot there that will affect rigging up a jig head. So a little bit more plastic in there for you to properly set up a jig head on those baits. So that will wrap up this video on rigging up artificial shrimp based on the depth that you are fishing. Again, like I said, I like to go with a weedless lightweight setup in anything less than 4 feet deep. So in that 1/16 to 1/8 ounce range. And then if I'm fishing deeper than 4 feet, I like to go with a jig head in that 1/8 to 1/2 ounce, and maybe even up to 3/4 of an ounce, depending on how deep you're fishing and how strong the current is. So if you have any questions about this, please feel free to leave a comment down below. Or if you happen to have any additional tips you would like to share, definitely let us know in the comments down below. Until then, thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.
Hey there, I'm Joe Simon.
And I'm Luke Simon.
And we are the Salt Strong Brothers. Real quick, 2 things we need your help. Number 1, my brother Luke here has really low self-esteem. And so it would mean the world to him and really boost his confidence if you would just subscribe to our channel. Not only will we make him feel better, which is awesome, but you will never miss out on one of our amazing new tips.
All right, so number 2, if you're not catching as many inshore saltwater fish per trip as you feel you deserve based on how much time and money you've put into fishing, then check out our Insider Fishing Club. It gives real-time trends that are actionable trends to make sure that you're maximizing your time in the feeding zones and minimizing your time in the dead zones.
Even if you don't have time to fish as much as you want, you'll still save hundreds of dollars on our discounts alone. Click down below now or go to saltstrong.com to learn more.
There's something about the water that'll give you peace, all by yourself or with your family. Live salt strong and wear the line today.